At any given moment, around 270,000 ships are sailing across the world's oceans. If you look at a live maritime tracker, you'll see the Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, and Atlantic Ocean filled with moving vessels, like bees swarming over honey. These massive ships travel freely through almost every part of the sea, whether it's southern Australia, South India, South Africa, or even the infamous Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle has long been surrounded by myths and mysteries, but the truth is quite different. Every year, millions of cargo ships pass through this region safely. Even on live maps, you'll find no empty spot here. It's constantly filled with colorful tracking dots representing active ships. However, there's one region near South America that tells a very different story. This is a sea route so dangerous that most ships avoid it at all costs. It's known as the Drake Passage, and today, we'll uncover why this stretch of ocean is considered the most treacherous in the world. For centuries, the Drake Passage has claimed countless lives and ships. It reminded the world of its deadly power once again on November 28, 2022, when a luxury cruise ship named Viking Polaris, carrying passengers to witness the breathtaking sights of Antarctica, met disaster. The 660-foot-long vessel had just entered what seemed to be the calm waters of the Drake Passage when it was suddenly struck by an abnormally massive wave. Despite being a modern cruise ship designed with the highest safety standards, this wave was far taller and stronger than expected. It shook the enormous vessel like a paper boat, shattering its windows and causing serious damage. Several passengers on the Viking Polaris cruise were seriously injured, and sadly, one person lost their life. According to historical data from just the past 2 centuries, the Drake Passage has claimed at least 683 lives, and the total number of ships that have sunk here before that remains unknown. So, what makes the Drake Passage so mysterious and deadly? Why does it trap the ships that dare to cross it, earning its reputation as the most dangerous sea route in the world? At first glance, it may appear to be a narrow stretch of ocean, but in reality, it spans a vast 900 kilometers, stretching from Cape Horn in South America to the Antarctic Peninsula. The Drake Passage holds a unique geographical significance. It's the point where 3 major oceans of the world meet: the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. In terms of depth, the Drake Passage is around 11,150 feet deep, while the surrounding regions on either side plunge even deeper, reaching depths of up to 15,700 feet. This passage was named after Sir Francis Drake, a famous English pirate and explorer from the 16th century. In 1577, Drake was a well-known privateer, backed by Queen Elizabeth I of England. He would raid and loot Spanish ships, as Spain was Britain's greatest rival at that time. Thanks to the Queen's support, Drake had complete freedom to attack Spanish vessels and coastal towns across the North Atlantic Ocean. His loyalty and daring voyages eventually earned him the Queen's favor, and she entrusted him with a special mission: to find a way into South America, a region believed to be rich in gold and silver reserves hidden in its mountains. Queen Elizabeth planned an expedition, sending Francis Drake along with 5 ships and about 200 men towards South America. Their mission was to cross the Strait of Magellan, a narrow and dangerous sea route at the southern tip of the continent, a gateway between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The goal of Drake's mission was to reach Peru, a land rumored to be overflowing with vast treasures of gold and inhabited by wealthy civilizations. Sir Francis Drake led the British officers on this expedition, but many of them could not accept taking orders from a privateer rather than a noble-born commander. Jealousy and resentment began to grow among them, leading to a conspiracy against Drake during the voyage. When the fleet reached the coast of Argentina, Drake discovered the mutiny. He accused several British officers of treason and ordered their execution. Leaving behind 2 ships, he continued with the remaining 3 vessels, successfully navigating the Strait of Magellan and reaching the western coast of South America. It took them 16 days to pass through the narrow and dangerous Strait of Magellan and enter the Pacific Ocean. However, as soon as they reached open waters, a violent storm struck the fleet. The powerful winds and waves scattered the ships, separating them completely. One ship managed to sail back to Britain through the Strait of Magellan, believing that Francis Drake had perished in the storm. Another ship mistakenly sailed toward what we now know as the Drake Passage, assuming it was the same strait, and was never seen again. When the storm finally subsided, Drake found himself far off course. Believing he was only slightly south of the Strait of Magellan, he decided to sail north along the coast to re-enter the strait. But in reality, he was already far north of it, unknowingly traveling through uncharted waters. As he continued his journey, Drake and his men raided coastal villages and Spanish ships, amassing vast amounts of gold and silver. Eventually, he reached what is now San Francisco, completing his legendary voyage. After returning, Drake reported that there existed a wide, open sea passage below South America, which could serve as an alternative route to the Strait of Magellan. This discovery led to the naming of that treacherous route as the Drake Passage, though ironically, Sir Francis Drake himself never actually crossed the passage named after him. It was only 40 years after Drake's expedition that a Dutch explorer named Willem Schouten successfully sailed through this dangerous stretch of sea for the first time. His voyage established a new route to the western coast of the Americas, which remained in use until the construction of the Panama Canal in 1914. But this raises an important question. Why is the Drake Passage considered so dangerous? As mentioned earlier, the Drake Passage is the point where three of the world's largest oceans meet: the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. Because the channel here is relatively narrow compared to the vastness of the surrounding oceans, the water flow becomes extremely powerful as these massive ocean currents converge. It's estimated that an astonishing 150 million cubic meters of water pass through the Drake Passage every second, which is about 600 times more than the amount of water flowing through the Amazon River each second. This gives you an idea of how unimaginably strong the oceanic forces are in this region. Surrounding Antarctica is the most powerful ocean current on Earth, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, ACC. This cold, fast-moving current continuously circles the continent in a clockwise direction. Because of it, the warm waters of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans are unable to reach Antarctica. This natural phenomenon plays a vital role in preventing Antarctica from melting. Without the ACC, warm ocean waters would have long ago begun to erode the icy stability of the southern continent. However, as the Antarctic Circumpolar Current flows near the Drake Passage, a portion of its powerful waters diverts into the South Atlantic Ocean. This sudden redirection of immense ocean energy is what triggers the formation of massive, unpredictable waves in the Drake Passage, making it one of the roughest and most perilous sea routes in the world. The biggest challenge in the Drake Passage is that the massive waves which form there are extremely difficult to predict. Experts say that when a ship passes through this region, the ocean can show only two extreme moods, famously called the Drake Lake and the Drake Shake. When conditions are calm, the sea resembles a silent lake, with hardly any visible waves. This is what sailors call the Drake Lake. But when the waves begin to form, there's no middle ground. They become violently intense and uncontrollable. This second condition is known as the Drake Shake, and it's during these episodes that most accidents occur. The sea often appears deceptively calm, but beneath the surface, the forces at play are unpredictable and deadly. No one fully understands why the Drake Passage shifts between these two extremes. Scientists believe it may be related to sudden changes in weather and atmospheric pressure. Warm and moist air currents from the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans move toward Antarctica, creating a pressure difference in the atmosphere. This pressure imbalance is thought to trigger massive waves, sometimes rising as high as 20 to 30 meters, up to 100 feet. However, there's still no conclusive scientific evidence to explain this phenomenon completely.